Lead generation is a big deal for a lot of business owners because when you have a lot of leads, then you can turn them into clients, and more clients mean more revenue. So this is exactly how I use Claude to generate unlimited leads for my AI consulting and implementation business. So I noticed that a lot of you watching my videos are not actually subscribed to my channel. So if you're not subscribed to my channel, please do hit the subscribe button and also like this video as it goes a long way to support my channel. Thank you. So I'm going to show you exactly how this workflow works. So let's get right into it. If you have a Claude account, when you come into Claude, I'm using a functionality called Claude Cowork, and Claude Cowork basically allows you to control stuff on your computer. When I come into Claude Cowork, all I do is I call a lead pipeline skill, and I'm going to explain what skills are in a second. I build a lot of AI automations for businesses, right? So this time around, let's say I want to target wellness spas in my city. I can just come in here, call the skill, and I can say maybe find me 2 wellness spas in the Ottawa area. I mean, you can have 1,000, 2,000, you can say that it will just take longer to generate the leads, but because I am doing this tutorial and I don't want to be sitting around for a really long time, I'm just going to say find me 2 wellness spas in the Ottawa area, and then over like say a minute later it would come back with like a real business. It'll give me like their Google reviews, their phone number, their emails, their websites. Also draft a personalized cold email written for each one sitting in my Gmail. So all I have to do is I just have to go into Gmail and then click send on that email. One reason why I typically would not want it to like automatically send the email is because I always want to have like a human in the loop. So for instance, this is an example email that is actually sitting in my draft, right? So it's actually found 2 spas for me with their business names, with their websites, their email, the company's phone number, the city, the spa like category, the type of spa it is. It's also giving me a summary of their reviews, and then based on like going into the review is realized that these are some of the leaky areas in the business, right? It's telling me that demand concentrated on named practitioners, appointments required model, booking should let clients pick practitioner and service, no show rigs suggest automated reminders, multiple inboxes, hint at manual inquiry, and after hours missed call capture, right? So it's giving me some opportunities for the business in here. As you can see, like what I run is actually being populated right now because I don't want to wait around. I'm just actually showing what's already exists, and it's actually coming here to draft the email. It knows that it's a Japanese head spa, right? So it's giving me a very tailored email that I can actually send to the business owners, right? So it's saying, see what the email is. It's saying like your Japanese head spa reviews are doing a lot of work for you. One client wrote that her first session with Richie was incredible from start to finish, and your clients clearly book for specific people, not just the slot. And that kind of demand is also where bookings quietly leak. So it's mentioning what the problem is, what a gap is, and it's telling them what I do. I build small AI tools for service businesses. It's actually automatically pitching the idea based on reading through the reviews, right? This store actually has like a really good review. So as you can see, like it's a 4.7 spa, so it's actually good. I'm gonna come back into Claude in here and see if Claude needs me to do something. Okay, so the command I put inside Claude has already run. You can see that it's updated the spreadsheets with this, and it's asking me like the sheet now has 4 leads, and it's saying that like it can actually go ahead and pull the reviews, the website drafts, and write the personalized emails. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to run this as well. And as I run this lead pipeline, you'd realize that the spreadsheet will also keep getting populated. It would pull the star reviews and also create the email for me as well. And then it would eventually come into Gmail and put it in my draft. Okay, so if I come into my draft, you would see that it's here, right? So this is really how this workflow works in Claude. And like I said, for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm just like doing it for just 2 spas. But if you want to generate unlimited leads with this Claude workflow, let's say if you want 1,000 leads, you can just say like find me 1,000 leads, and it will be able to generate it for you as well. And doing this means that you don't need to now get like a virtual assistant to do the scraping, no copy pasting from Google Maps at midnight. You don't have to do any of that because everything is done for you and everything is automated and all that. So I really want to break down how every piece works so that you can build one for yourself, or if you can't build it, I do this for a lot of business owners as well. So you can also reach out to me. My email is in the comments or in the description as well. So let me show you exactly what you're building here, okay? So here's the big idea. So I actually built what I call a lead pipeline. It's a little assembly line for finding local businesses and reaching out to them, okay, so that you don't have to manually do it. And like you saw from the demo, you tell it what kind of businesses, you tell it where, and it actually does 4 things, okay? So the first thing it does is that it finds the leads, it studies their reviews, it writes a custom email for both of them, like you saw, and it actually keeps track of who has been contacted and who needs a follow-up. So again, if I come into the spreadsheet, you can see that it's keeping track of like the drafted one here, and you can see that it's just finishing with the generation of the custom email, okay? And I like the way that it actually would even mention the name of the people. So it's saying your treatment reviews are excellent, Brianna, Avi, Tika, and Twinkle get singled out by name, and the couple massages clearly land, okay? So recent guests loved everything behind the scenes but described the front desk as slow, overwhelming, and rushed, okay? So this is really good. It's identified the friction, and so when I send this email, it's actually going to hit because it's a custom email directed to this business owner. So it has also drafts. It's tracking that, okay, this email has been drafted. So if I should go into like my Gmail here, you can see that going to be showing up in my draft as well. Anyways, I digress. Okay, so it studies their reviews, it writes a custom email for each one, and it also keeps track of who has been contacted and the one who needs to follow up, okay? And the whole thing runs on 3 parts actually working together, plus 1 Google Sheets that actually act as the memory like you saw in here. So if I come into Google, for instance, if I come back in here, you can see that I have the Google Sheet created. And in your own build, you don't necessarily need to use Google Sheets. I just use Google Sheets in my tutorials because 1, a lot of businesses actually rely on Google Sheets, but 2, it's also very easy to do the setup. There's a connector for it and everything. And so I am going to show you how all these 4 works: the sheets, the skill, the config file, and the app script, all in plain English. So let's start first with like the big picture. Okay, so picture a small kitchen. To actually cook, you need a few things. You need a recipe that actually lists the steps. You need your ingredients and your personal details, okay, like your address for the delivery. You need a way to actually get food in and out of the kitchen. This system I built in Claude, this lead generation pipeline I built in Claude, works the same way. It has 4 characteristics. So it has a Google Sheet that you see here, which is basically like a database or memory that is actually storing every lead generating actually lives here. So it's like filling a cabinet that never forgets. And then the scale itself is a recipe, and like I mentioned, I promised earlier on that I'm going to explain exactly what a scale is, and I've actually done a lot of videos on this channel talking about what scales are, but the scale is actually just the recipe. It tells the AI exactly what steps to follow. And then there's also like the config file. So the config file actually is like your personal settings and your keys, your password, and your signature. Everything actually lives here in your config file. And then I have the app script, which is basically the bridge. So it lets AI safely write into your sheet. So I'm going to show you, this is what I have in app script. It's actually also like a little code I have in app script. And mind you, like all these codes are things that you don't necessarily need to write yourself. You can actually leverage AI to do the code and everything for you. So 4 systems: app script, Google Sheets, the scales, and the config file. So now let me talk about the scale for a second. Just think of a scale as just a set of written instructions, right? It lives in a plain text file called a scale.md file. I'm going to show you exactly how the scale.md file works. So it lives in a plain text file called a scale.md file. If you look at all the other scales I have in here, like let's say this particular scale, you see that every scale lives in a scale.md file. And basically, just think of it as a recipe card that I handed the AI that says exactly how I want you to run my outreach, right? So inside it, it spells the exact workflow. This is like the instructions. So when I say find me leads, it knows that it needs to go and pull leads from Google, as you can see here. When I say run the pipeline, for instance, it knows that it needs to actually read each business's review and basically spot where they are losing time and draft an email in my voice. It even knows my writing style because I've actually provided all of this with it. I've said things like don't have exclamation points in here, so I've put in like guardrails and everything. I've said things like no, hope this email finds you well. I've said things like open with something specific about the business, which is why it actually goes into the reviews and talks about like the people all the service providers for that exact company as well. The skill also keeps the status for every single lead, a little progress bar. If you remember, if we go into the spreadsheet, you see that when a lead is first brought into the spreadsheet, it starts as new and then it changes to drafted, and then once an email is written, then it changes to sent, and then after a few tries with no answer, it actually flips to like needs a call. And that way nothing actually gets forgotten and nobody gets emailed twice. And so here is really my favorite part about the skill. Okay, so I have a part that talks about the guardrails, and this is really like my favorite part because the skill is told never to send an email without me approving it first in the chat. And so if I come back into the chat, you'd see that it basically drafts the email for me first. So you can see it drafts the email for me first. Only after I approve it does it actually send. And a lot of people talk about having a human in the loop. A lot of people I talk to, they are always like, I don't want AI to actually handle client relationship. And I always say that, yes, don't let AI handle client relationship. So it's good that I actually have like a guardrail. So before any email gets sent, I have to look at it first. It never sends an email without me approving it first. And it first caps how many it sends in a day so that I don't have to look like a spam. And actually skips any business that doesn't have an actual email address. Okay, the AI follows my rules based on the guardrails I've actually defined in here as well. Now the next thing is the config file. Okay, so the config file is a JSON file. So if the skill is the recipe that everyone could use, the config is more so like your personal copy with your own details filled in, right? It's like the settings page for the entire system. So let me walk you through what's actually happening there. So let's talk about what's in the config file. So this is exactly what is in the config file. So you can see that in the config file, there's something called the sheet ID. Okay, so this is the sheet ID, which is basically what Google Sheets uses. So it's basically Google Sheets address. Okay, and it also has a webhook URL and a webhook secret. Okay, so the webhook URL and the secret password is basically how the system talks to your Google Sheet, and the password that actually keeps strangers out. And then I also have a Google Places API key, and this is basically a pass that lets you pull a business review. Because you have the API key, you can actually talk to Google and it gives you the data you need. And I also have like Apify settings. Apify is basically the tool that scrapes Google Maps and how many results to grab by default. And then I have my email signature in here as well. Now let me talk about the part that sounds the most technical, which is actually the Apify script. Okay, people will look at a JSON file and be like, oh, this is super technical, but actually it's not that technical. It's not that serious here. Okay, here's the problem it actually solves. So Google won't just let any outside tool reach inside and write to like its spreadsheets. Spreadsheets are actually part of Google's ecosystem. Thank goodness for app scripts, because app scripts helps you do that. And so app scripts basically gives you a safe way or a safe little doorway, right? And app scripts is Google's own built-in scripting that lives inside your sheet, and then we are going to use that to build the doorway so that when you come in here and you actually deploy the code, you deploy it as a web app. Google hands your web address, which is a web URL you get after you deploy, which is these ones here, and then it also takes a password from your config file. So if the password matches, the script writes to your sheet. If it doesn't, then the door stays shut. The script knows how to do three things. That is basically add brand new leads, update a single lead, or update a whole batch at once, and that's it. Like 3 jobs, 1 password, 1 saved door. That's the entire bridge between the AI and your spreadsheet. Now let's put all 4 pieces together again so that this actually sticks. Inside Claude Cowork, I come in here, I call the lead pipeline, right, which is this one, and I give it an instruction: find me, let's say, wellness spas, find me automated businesses in Ottawa. The skill takes over. It fires up Apify, which is a connector in here. And in order for you to like use Apify connector, you need to have like the token and everything. It fires up Apify to search Google Maps and then finds the spas. And in my case, it found 2 real ones with email addresses. It goes ahead, sends it through the app script doorway. And just like that, they land in my sheet and they are marked new. Then I say run the pipeline. It pulls each spa's Google review using the places key, notices that customers are obsessed with specific staff members, and that the booking appointment is, for instance, for the first one line you see here, is basically finds that like the booking is appointment only and writes a tailored email pointing out that they're probably losing bookings. It also goes ahead to write drafts back into the sheet and then shows them to me to basically approve. I pick one, it drops a finished draft straight into my Gmail, and then I hit send. 4 parts, 1 sentence from me, and a real piece of outreach goes a long way to help me with my lead generation pipeline. That's the whole machine, okay? So that's the lead pipeline. The sheet remembers, the skill follows the recipe, the config holds your key, and then the app script is the safe bridge between all of them. And once it's set up, you're running each outreach with a single sentence. If you want the exact setup guide, which is basically the app script code and the config template, you can join my community. If you want me to build this as well for you, along with other automations that are relevant to your business as well, you can reach out to me and we can talk about it. But that is it for today's tutorial. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.